the regularly scheduled meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. It is 7:31 p.m. We have a full quorum with council members Clay, Taylor, Allen, and Gay. And so I'm calling the meeting to order at this time. Our first item up for business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our invocation is going to be handled by Chaplain Alexander this evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I pray that all is well with each and every one of you tonight. May we pray, please. Father, we come together in your name. We come together praying once again for our city, our state, as we continue to pray for this nation as a whole. I come tonight praying, Father, once again for unity, for wisdom to be upon this governing body of this city, all its employees and its citizens. I pray tonight, Father, as we go through tonight's agenda, that everything will go according to your plan, that wisdom, compassion, and understanding will be upon each of the council members tonight as they go through the decision, make decisions for this city. We also, Father, pray for the firefighters, the law enforcement, and all the city personnel. In the mighty name of Jesus, we do pray. Amen.
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 Item number 2, and Ms. Moore, I'm not seeing the agenda up, but I've got it on another screen, but I think we might be having some technical issues. But item number 2 is additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda. Ms. Miller, I believe there is one.
Yes, I do have one addition, which would be 8F, and it's consideration or approval for the interim city manager to make a payment in the amount of $15,448 to the Environmental Protection Division.
Okay. Any others? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Any abstentions? Hearing none, that is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 3A is approval of the regular session minutes from November 1st.
I move to approve with the possibility of a couple corrections.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Go ahead, Councilman Clay.
On packet page 11, line 201, I think that probably was supposed to be ARPA funds and not Arthur funds.
201. Yes.
Right.
ARPA. Yes. As opposed to
Correct.
Arthur. Yes.
Okay. And then on packet page 18, line 528, instead of nonprofit, I think it should be or nonprofit.
Yes.
And that's all I had.
All right. Any other changes anyone saw? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote with those changes incorporated. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I heard all 4 of you there. Thank you, gentlemen. That was unanimous. Item 3B is approval of the workshop session minutes from November 1st.
I move to approve as presented.
Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Clay.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, that is unanimous as well. We do not have any proclamations, resolutions, plaques, or announcements this evening. We move to item number 5, remarks of citizens. Ms. Moore?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 2 citizen remarks that were emailed in today. The first remark comes from Stephanie Jones. And I'm going to start my timer. And it reads, hi, I would like to comment during the citizen comment section of the regular session of the council meeting. I would like to invite the community to attend the community Thanksgiving service being hosted by the College Park Women's Club on Sunday, November 21st at 6:30. Stephanie. Okay. And the next comment. Is from Alicia Houston. Starting my timer. And it reads, Madam Mayor and Council, hello, and I hope you and yours are well. Congratulations to Councilman Gay on his re-election and Councilman Carn on his election. I'm hoping to get clarity on current mask mandates and any future mandates our government is considering. I have carefully researched the laws here. Masks only have emergency use authorization from the FDA, and the EUA clearly states that 1, masks have not been FDA cleared or approved, and 2, no one should represent or suggest that masks are safe or effective for the prevention or protection from COVID. I attached a copy of the EUA to this message for your reference. 21 U.S. Code 360 BBB-3 governs all EUA products like masks, COVID shots, and PCR tests. The code clearly states any American has the right to refuse an EUA product like masks for any reason whatsoever. It specifically says that individuals to whom the product is administered must be informed of their option to accept or refuse administration of the product. By law, no one can mandate someone wear a mask if they do not consent. Anywhere an American citizen goes, he or she can be asked to wear a mask or take a COVID test or get a COVID shot. But he or she can also say no thanks. I do not consent to wearing that mask or taking that test or getting that COVID shot. It should just be that simple. Unfortunately, government at every level has reached way over their boundaries on this issue, and I've had a lot of trouble with this here in College Park. That is why I'm writing you today. I am a disabled veteran. Substances to which I was exposed to in the Army have compromised the inside lining of my nose, and on a good day is very close off inside and hard to breathe. I've had 2 surgeries inside my nose to help keep it from closing off completely, the latest of which was earlier this year. Allergy seasons are particularly tough for me as I'm now very sensitive to a lot of different environmental triggers. So is mask wearing. I wore a mask for as long as I could, but we are approaching year 3 or 2 weeks to stop the spread, and I physically and mentally cannot take it anymore. Once I had to have a second surgery in my nose this year because of all the mask wearing was doing more harm than good. I decided no longer consent to wearing a mask. My kids were also adversely affected mentally and physically by an entire year in masks last school year. So we decided not to mask them anymore either. Bottom line, I do not consent to masking myself or my children, as is my right. Beyond my sincerely held beliefs and laws I reference above, I also have ADA protection. And that is time. And that is the last comment.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Moore. If you've not had an opportunity to submit a comment before 7 p.m. and you wish to speak, you may do so at this time for 1 minute. Ms. Moore, can you let people know how they can do that?
Yes, they can go to www.collegeparkga.com. In the top green strip at the top of the webpage, you're going to click on government, scroll down to council meetings. Once you're on that page, scroll to the middle of the page to click the link for tonight's meeting. Once you're in this meeting, please raise your hand to be acknowledged, and you can leave your comment at that time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moore. Not seeing any other hands up. Give people a few more moments. All right, we will go ahead and move on to our business in other business, which is other business is lengthy tonight. I think we've got items A through P. So we will start with item 6A, consideration and of an action on amendments to the Alcoholic Beverages Ordinance. I believe Ms. Matricardi is going to be the one talking about this. Is she here, or Mr. Denmark, you're going to be doing it?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Ms. Metricardi is not on the call this evening. Thank you. This is the comprehensive rewrite of the alcohol ordinance. It perhaps didn't start that way, but we ultimately got there. So we have made significant changes to the alcohol ordinance. We've created a tier system, and we've kind of created a situation where we're no longer required to have a certain threshold on food sales in order to serve alcohol. So it's a comprehensive rewrite that we've discussed at three work sessions, and the matter is now before the mayor and council for approval.
I think we actually we still do have a threshold
Yes, we do.
for there's thresholds in each category. The categories have been broken down,
Right.
but we haven't removed thresholds for alcohol sales. I don't think that was the intent of the rewrite, but any questions for Mr. Denmark on this one?
I would just like to say that Danielle did a fabulous job. She worked with a lot of folks on it, and I think she's done a very good job with it.
I agree. I did have one, as I was looking over it one last time, 3-46.1.
What page, Mayor?
I was just getting there. It is packet page 90. And for clarification's sake, it is subsection B. It says the decision to immediately suspend a license shall be jointly made by the city manager and shall be justified, and it goes on. But the phrase shall be jointly made would indicate that it's made by the city manager and someone else. So I would think that would be, since we have referenced the chief of police in subsection A, that decision would be made jointly by the city manager and the chief of police.
That's the way I interpreted
That's
it.
an interpreted as well. When we put the word jointly in there, and then we don't have
The second person.
yeah, we don't have the second person. It's just, it's unnecessarily vague.
I agree. And you could, that's a scrivener's error probably. So I mean,
Right.
I think that we could take action subject to that revision.
And this is more of an administrative question, but these changes, as people are coming back for their alcohol licenses for 2022, how are we, I mean, it's one thing if we were to just sort of hand them the new code, but can we do our best to kind of boil down some of these changes and so people understand how things are different going into the new year? And I guess that's a question for Ms. Miller.
Yes, ma'am. We can have Danielle to highlight them and give them a highlighted copy so they can see the changes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, you
I-
could also do
Just
it.
give them the red line.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of something even,
Well, you can do it. You could do a FAQ.
yeah,
F-
yeah, that's exactly what I'm
FAQ.
thinking, that you get that. So here are the big changes here, and we can give them a copy. I mean, I think giving them a copy of the revised ordinance is great, but it should sort of highlight some of the larger changes that are going to impact business owners across the city, just so there's no ambiguity.
Yes, ma'am.
And make sure our people are up to date with everything.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I have a comment, Winston.
Yes, sir.
I want to be clear, since the public don't have this document in front of them, that one of the chief changes in this is that we can now serve alcohol at events without a special event permit. Can you clarify that?
I think that you can apply for the ability to serve alcohol, and you can get that. And so it changes it from the old special event permit process to a new process that's outlined in this ordinance. But I think that should be clarified on a fact, a cheat sheet, at a glance, something that highlights this, because obviously educating the public on this, because it's kind of a cumbersome kind of ordinance. We're all bound to know what's in it technically, but as a very practical matter, from a customer service point of view, at a glance, cheat sheet, fact would be very useful for the public.
Yeah, I had a constituent arrested at the park this summer because of ambiguity in some of our ordinance. So what you're saying is that what? You're going to ask the city to clarify how you can serve alcohol without a special permits license?
No,
You can't do that. That's
You
we're
can't
not,
do that.
that's not, we haven't made that change here. If this
That's
is
not in
adopted.
this document?
No,
No.
sir.
Okay,
No.
all right. Thank you for clarifying.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Hearing none. Is there a motion
I'll move to approve
with the addition on page?
with
Packet
the additional joint decision on that page.
All right, with the chief of police added there. Okay.
You're
great.
correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 6B is a quarterly discretionary balance report for the mayor and each city council member. Any questions on that?
I had a correction for it, but I think that was-
I cleared mine up as well, I think. Ms. Philora Bradley.
my
Yes.
correction.
sorry.
There is a correction to Councilman Clay's discretionary usage. And balance, there was a reservation that was canceled, but he did not receive credit for it. And he did make the cancellation in time for a full refund, so we need to make a correction. He still has $5,000 available in his discretionary balance. due to
And I
the
think
credit.
I think I've got some travel that was canceled as well for NLC, and it's my understanding this afternoon that it wasn't processed in time for the generation of this report. Councilman Gay.
Yes, Ms. Bradley, some time ago, I thought we approved to move this scholarship money to the nonprofit
We did.
Why? Okay, but why?
They only
Yeah,
requested.
Can I finish?
18
Can
Go
I
ahead.
finish the statement,
Go ahead.
please?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilman Gay.
I am trying to get my thoughts together.
Okay.
The question is, why don't we just move all of the balance rather than just what was allowed it for this school year? Why don't we send them all the money?
They were only requested 18,200 to be distributed to some students. So as far as why we did not transfer all the funds, they did not request all the funds. They want us to hold on to the funds until they request the remaining balance, once they identify the students that will receive the grant.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions for Ms. Fuller Bradley on item 6B? And while we're at it, item 6C and 6D as 6C, 6D, and 6E. Those are all Ms. Fuller Bradley. Any questions for her on those issues?
No, just one comment, and that is on the grant program, we are very close to using the total grant plus the extension on it, which amounts to around $600,000, if I remember rightly, with the extension. So I was the one who was constantly pushing, make sure we don't leave any money on the table. And now I'm saying, let's make sure we don't owe any money to the table. In other words, we got to be careful that when we add in the administrative costs and everything else that we've given out, and not end up having to give out a grant with general fund money. Since we're so tight on money, we've had some pretty strenuous discussions about that lately. So that's all. We just have to watch it. You're going to be threading the needle. I mean, a few dollars here and there is one thing, but not to be off significantly one way or the other, ideally.
And just to let other people know, excuse me, there is a program that's still open for senior citizens. And if they'll call 678-608-9200, there is some money still left in that program. That's the LIHEAP cooling program, which I got from customer service. So if someone is interested, they can still apply at that program.
Yes, and Ken, I think that we actually have that something posted out on the website. I think Althea has something out there. So there are a couple other places you can go. You're not out of luck, and from what I understand, they still have a fair amount of money to give out. It's just that we're out of our money.
Right.
We had a slow start, but then once we hit the ground and we started running, it went quickly. But yes, both of you are correct. There are still a number of options on the county and state level that folks can reach out to, and they can see more about that at collegeparkga.com. All right.
And I had one other comment, Mayor,
Okay.
on packet page 194, which is another of Althea's. I just wanted to congratulate staff. One of my questions was the status on delinquency there. And I understand we got the full amount of money today.
On number one, right?
Number one.
Mhm.
And I think Althea and her staff, particularly Phil Latona, are to be congratulated. That was over $110,000. Very good work,
Absolutely.
guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on item 6B, C, D, or E? Ms. Moore, I think we can go ahead to the next slide. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 6F. It's Mayor and City Council consideration and action on a Homestead Tax Exemption Resolution. This is something we have talked about for quite a while. And does anyone have any questions or comments on it at this time?
I got a question about where the money is going to come from.
I believe it is the general fund, or
Yeah.
less money that goes to the general fund. Is it Ms. Fuller Bradley? Am I correct in that?
Yes, ma'am, you are correct. The
Why don't we
funding,
think about putting that off till next year?
Well, didn't we just spend money for employee salaries, that money that came from the CARES Act that we were told that that's money going into the general fund? And that's $2 million. And isn't this approximately under 100,000?
Those numbers are not.
I mean,
Not in line.
approximately. They're
No,
not.
sir. No, sir. That is incorrect.
Is there a
believe-
ballpark?
I believe it's about $300,000 for those
Okay.
one-time bonuses that are going to staff on December 1st.
Okay, and that's my point exactly. This exemption is not even but approximately 100,000. And so my point is, didn't we say that there's a $2.5 million from the CARES Act money that's going in the general fund?
Ms. Fuller Bradley, can you outline the plans for, there's two tranches of ARPA funds. We received one and we are anticipating another next year.
that is correct. In total, it's about $5.7 million. That's to replace lost revenue.
So this council member, this could easily be paid for. But what's more important is how significant it is. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
There are changes that I recommended that Danielle made to this document. And I think we ought to know what those changes are before we make the motion.
But there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'm happy to hold my motion until Danielle discuss the changes that were made, because we spent some time on a Zoom meeting discussing these changes.
Well,
Okay, I can go over the changes.
Hold
that
on
she
one
has
second.
made.
Councilman Gay, are you withdrawing your motion?
I'd like to hold it until Danielle,
Ms. Matricardi isn't here, so I think it's going to be Mr. Denmark. But
Mr. Denmark,
are you withdrawing your motion at this time?
is it necessary to withdraw it? Can he not just answer the question for the council member?
A motion has been made and a second is the appropriate. I need a second to move forward. Are you withdrawing it at this time?
I'm withdrawing it at this time.
Okay, go right ahead.
You're speaking to me, Mayor?
Yes, sir. I apologize.
Okay. So let's start with packet page 212. So on packet page 212, actually, it starts on the previous page on line 20. It talks about the gross income.
Yes.
And it says here, except for the purposes
that for the
of this
purposes-
section shall term, the term shall include only the portion of income or benefits, et cetera, et cetera. I proposed, and Danielle made the change in the document, I think, that is currently in existence. I don't know whether that was disseminated or not, but it came in after the packet had been distributed. I propose that that be deleted, and we simply talk about gross income as it is adjusted for federal tax purposes. And the problem with that was that you could actually, it was very confusing as to what other things could be included, et cetera, in this overall ordinance. The second thing I had,
Councilman Clay, can I stop you there? Can you read how it should read in your?
It should simply delete those lines on packet page 212 from line 21 through 26.
Okay.
And it would end with line 20. In other words, the way it would read is gross income means adjusted gross income determined pursuant to the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended for federal tax purposes, period.
Period. Okay. Understood.
No special adjustments to it. The second thing would be on line 30, which is on page 212, and said, instead of saying resident, say each resident owner. So each resident owner of the city of College Park who is in a senior citizen, et cetera, et cetera. The idea is the person that will file for the exemption is the owner who is being billed for the taxes. So it's not just any random resident who might be renting an apartment or something. It is the owner of the facility that they are living in. And then on the next page, packet page 213. In the tax law, you can file either jointly or you can file separately. And like I say, I do my own taxes, so I'm probably more familiar than some people with the tax law. But on line 53, instead of saying, does designate thereof with a copy of the person's federal income tax, say persons, comma, and spouses if filing separately federal income tax. In other words, what you're trying to do is show the total income. And if you're talking about just one person, the owner, then it's their tax return. If If the owner files jointly with his spouse, then it's the joint return. Again, only one return. However, if the spouse files a separate tax return, you include both tax returns if they're filing separately. Further down on that page, there's a nit on line 61. The owner shall be eligible for to apply. The word for should simply be deleted. On the next page, packet page 214, my argument is that beginning on 213 on the last line with the word "the," you would strike the homestead exemption granted by the subsection B, et cetera, because we're giving 100% exemption. So no other exemption is relevant to be applied to this. You're not going to give a negative exemption. You're not going to pay them. You're simply, if you're eliminating the tax entirely, then those words are unnecessary. They were necessary before when you were not giving a full exemption. Okay? And it turns out then that on packet page 217, those changes would be made again. It's the same structure to the document. Packet page 217, we're talking about line 21 through 26, deleting it. On line 30, we're talking about the resident owner. On the next page, we're talking about the two income tax returns. We're getting rid of the nit on line 61. On the next page, we're getting rid of all those words that were stated beginning on the last line of line 72 on the previous page, all the way through line 75. And those are the changes that I would suggest. And I think Danielle didn't really have a problem with it, but we need to discuss it with the council. The intent is to give this to people who need it. And the way to do that is to use, ideally, the federal income tax returns. And that's the fairest and enforced by the government, not enforced by us. We just piggyback, just like the state piggybacks on the federal income tax return for the state return. So those are the changes that I would like to see in there. I don't think we want to be giving this to people that have a huge portfolio, but maybe no federal income, no Social Security being paid to them. They may not be on Social Security. They may have some other arrangement.
Mayor, I make a motion that to approve on those changes that Councilmember Clay has outlined.
I'll
right.
second that.
Okay. Any other further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose with comment. I think we ought to wait till next year.
Okay. Councilman Taylor?
I agree. I oppose also. I think we should wait.
So that brings it down to me. I am in favor, as this is something that will not take place until after until the fall of 2023, because it has to go to the voters. So it is not something that it's going to be going into effect in 2022 anyway. So I think it is up to the voters, and motion passes.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and
Mayor.
I would like,
Thank you,
I'd like to
Councilmember.
add to that I think that we're going to see double-digit inflation, and the people that are going to be hardest hit, yes, Social Security went up. I think it was roughly 6% this year. Very unusual, big jump for Social Security. But I think you're going to see double-digit inflation, and I think it's going to particularly hit the people that are most vulnerable, who are our seniors, who are living on primarily on Social Security, period. And I think we need to do something for them as soon as it's practicable.
And it's not really our call anyway. We'll see what the voters have to say.
Absolutely.
All right. So item 6G, consideration of an action on a request to approve the 2022 city holiday calendar. Any questions
Motion
on
to
this one?
approve.
Hold on, I was just going to ask if there's any questions on it. Hearing none. Wait.
I have a question.
Okay. But Councilman Gay has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Go right ahead, Councilman Clay.
So we're adding another holiday to the list. Are we taking off any holiday? For example, we could add Juneteenth. I have no issue with adding Juneteenth. I think it's a perfectly important holiday. But we could take away the day after Thanksgiving. Now, personally, I think Thanksgiving is special. And I think I like Thanksgiving better than Christmas because it's not so commercial. So I would like to see the employees have that day after. And I certainly don't have conceptually, I don't have a problem with Juneteenth being a holiday. So then I asked the question of city manager, how much it's going to cost. And this is going to cost around $82,000, if I recall. And I asked the question whether it is budgeted. And the answer is it is not budgeted. So those are my questions. And I guess I answered the questions at the same time. We talk about money. It keeps coming up over and over. I mean, Councilman Allen made the point just on the last vote. And I think because it is coming in next year, that's fine. Can we afford $82,000 more? I mean, the other night we were talking about a couple $1,000 in another meeting, and that was a serious discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight we're talking about $80,000.
May I take back my motion?
Okay.
Could we do this? Could we make it? I don't know that we want to do that, but could we make it an approval for the following year, but just not implement this particular, and not, in other words, not this calendar, but the following calendar? Can we legally decide a year in advance? It's not even in the budgetary period that we're in.
Do you want to approve the calendar that we currently have?
What I'm suggesting, Councilman, is that for next year, we keep the same holidays that we have now. We keep 8 holidays and don't add a 9th one. But the following year, we add Juneteenth. I think Juneteenth is a really important holiday. And we add that the following year. I just don't want to, I'm concerned about getting hit with $80,000, and we're going to have more of these things. Mark my word. We've got another item on the agenda where our contract with Colliers wants to go up by 5%. And I'm not saying whether they deserve it or not, but this is the beginning of the inflationary cycle that we're going to see over and over again. And just throw that out.
My motion is that we keep the calendar as is, and we add the amended calendar the previous year.
The following year, you mean?
Following year. Following,
I'll
not
second.
previous. Following
I got.
Hold on one second. Councilman Gay, you made a motion. Councilman Clay, you seconded it. Councilman Taylor, go ahead and comment.
My comment is I think we should go ahead and acknowledge this holiday, because basically we don't do it. People gonna take off anyway. They got holiday, they got vacation time anyway. So either way it go, you know what I mean? We may as well just go ahead and get ready for it. Take it. Waiting 1 extra year ain't gonna change anything. If they take off next year because we didn't do it for them, what's gonna be the difference?
Typically,
I think we need
sorry.
to prepare.
I apologize,
Okay,
Councilman Taylor,
okay.
go right ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, you finished? Because this is a Friday, typically when we have holidays on Friday, we shut down early anyway. We either shut City Hall down at noon or 2. Like if for Good Friday, we shut down early. There's a number of holidays for which we shut down early. I agree with Councilman Taylor. We're going to get a lot of folks on 3-day weekends anyway on this. And I also understand the budgetary concerns as well. We have, we're not in a position, and we've said it already, and we approve the ARPA funds for a one-time bonus. But if we can't give people raises, I think we should give them time. But
I think we have to do this for the employees.
Madam Mayor,
yes, sir.
it might be problematic to vote this year for
To bind a following council.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That was my question. Okay.
Remove my motion.
Okay, so is there, you've withdrawn your motion. Is there a motion on the table?
I make a motion, we use the proposed holidays that was submitted to us, including Juneteenth.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right.
I second.
All those in favor? I'm
Aye.
sorry. Wait,
Aye.
hold on. I'm sorry. Councilman Gay, go right ahead.
Does Rob, are we allowed to say anything besides vote?
I saw you start to go, so I held back on the vote. Go right ahead.
I guess all I'm asking, if we're talking about money, I'm just curious, ma'am, why would we not take that same approach for elderly seniors that can barely make ends meet, but the same money you want to give to Juneteenth? I just want to say that.
And let's keep on this one that we've already voted on that. So all those in favor of approving the 2022 proposed holiday schedule?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
And I'm breaking this one as well. I vote in favor. Item 6H, Mayor and City Council consideration and approval of the proposed 2022 City Council meeting schedule.
I move to approve.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Item 6I is consideration of an action on a request from Ahmed Ismail of the Renaissance Marriott Gateway to host a Patel. I think it's a larger, it's the Ishani Patel Ram Patel Wedding Barat. It's a traditional Indian wedding procession. It's a one-time special event to be held on November 20th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. But I believe the crossing is actually from 8 to 9. Ms. Moore?
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Yes, this is a one-time traditional Indian processional across the street from one hotel to the other. Not going to be an all-day event, just literally dancing across the street to the next part of their event. And they're asking for the usage of streets to do so. So, guys,
And I got my question answered. I had a concern about liability.
Mhm.
And legal reviewed it, and based on their comments, I think we're okay. So I will move to approve it.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Consideration of an action on a request for approval of an easement that will allow for designated residential parking. I believe, Ms. Washington, are you going to lead this one?
Yeah, I'll head it up.
All
We
right.
also have some representatives from the United Methodist Church on the line. I believe I saw Sherry's on, so she might be able to answer some more specific questions. I did work with the city attorney on this and city engineering office, and we decided to go with doing this as an easement so as not to put any responsibility on the city as far as enforcement. So the idea would be that we would grant an easement for this parking. Part of that agreement would be that the new sidewalk and islands, parking islands that contain the power poles would be dedicated back to the city. We'd be responsible for that. And the owner would be responsible for the parking that's in the right of way. And this
Question?
would be specifically for, sorry, Councilman.
Well, I was just going to say specifically for the people that stay in that building rather than the,
Right, it would be specifically
every
for
day.
the lofts at 1805 Harvard that are being constructed there.
So why don't they have parking? They have parking across the street. They have parking down the street. Why do we need to designate special spaces for the people that are there? And were those special places in the plans from the beginning when we had decided how much parking they needed?
I thought they had parking. I thought that one of the reasons why they got the lot that was at Washington and Princeton, that they wanted to do parking for some of those people in that building at the time. And they admitted that they were not going to build on it. They only wanted to use it for a parking lot and therefore at a very good rate. You know,
Yes, very good rate.
Yes. And I thought that was going to take care of all the parking. I hate to designate any part of a street, even though they wanted to move the sidewalk. I hate to designate it strictly for that building when it's on the main street. And I've been by there 4 times or 5 times since Thursday, and there's always 10 to 17 cars parked along that street. So what are we going to tell those people that normally park there? They can't park there anymore because the folks in the building have priority. That bothers me a little bit.
And what about the people that want to go to church? They're still going to have a chapel, a still small, at least the plans have changed. I didn't know that.
Hold on one second here. We've got a lot of questions thrown out. And so let's see if we can get some of them answered. Ms. Washington, you said Ms. Ong is here.
Yes.
And I believe that she's prepared to answer some of these questions as well. So why don't we start there?
Hi, everyone. This is Sherry, and I'm just representing the whole development group over at the Iron Development. I totally understand your concern around the Vital lot being designated for parking, and that's originally, and it's still going to be used for parking. One of the things that we discovered after we received the tax credits or got confirmed for the tax credits is that the investors for the tax credits, who are RBCs, the Royal Bank of Canada, they specifically insisted on a reserve parking, and that has really thrown a lot of our calculations off. By reserve parking, I mean not shared. And so we had originally intended to do a shared parking program that would involve everybody sharing essentially on off periods. So whether that's, daytime use for office, and then, shared with residents who would then be able to park there from like, say, I don't know, like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. or something like that. But right now we're in a situation where we are unable to do that, as much as we did not want to add additional parking. And that leaves us in a position where now we we really need to find a couple more additional spaces. It's not, I think we're adding another, I want to say 12 spaces, which again are already spaces that are being used illegally as parking. So, so somebody else can speak to that today, but currently our understanding is the people who park on Washington are actually parking illegally because it is not wide enough currently.
I can't hear.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can
Are
hear you, but I can't understand you. And I would like, if someone could summarize what you said. I didn't get it. I should have interrupted you sooner, perhaps.
Sorry,
but-
yeah, it is pretty complicated. There's a shared parking plan and and basically the difference between a shared parking plan and a reserved parking plan is tipping our calculations of the number of spaces that is required for the entire development.
So what changed? Why, where was the error made or misunderstanding or what have you, that you thought you had this many parking places and now you only have that many? What is driving that?
The investors, which is the Royal Bank of Canada, so they are the investors for the low income tax credits, who are the primary, I guess, where the equity is coming from for the tax credits. And so that is essentially out of our control because that is something that they're saying that they're requiring. That was not essentially disclosed to us from the beginning, and they're insisting on that. So that is the current driver.
So you're saying that the investors, and we're talking about the parking lot that's down the street, is that correct? The one that you bought from BIDA?
Yeah, the investors for the multifamily development. So the BIDA lot that we secured for the parking was a shared parking. It was going to be a shared parking for the Academy building, the church, and the 60 units of housing. It can only fit at maximum 61 parking spaces. And so even with a 0.75 ratio for the 60 units, for the church, for the condos, and for the future parsonage development, that is our second phase, when we calculated all of those numbers, those 60 spaces were not enough, especially when 38 of them had to be reserved exclusively for the affordable housing on the MARTA lot.
And we didn't know that there were going to be 38 spaces reserved?
No, at the time when we applied for the to the Department of Community Affairs, when we applied to DCA, we presented the plan without securing. The investors usually come in after we secure the tax credits. And so when we secure the tax credits, then we know we have them, and then we go to find an investor to see who is going to then purchase those tax credits. And when the RBC decided to invest and purchase those tax credits, they made it a condition that those parking spaces had to be reserved.
So when did we find that out?
About 2 months ago, roughly. And we have been trying and trying and trying about 10 different ways. And this is the best solution that we've been able to.
Why can't you reserve some spots in the parking lot that you have, that you had originally set up, beside the parsonage?
Correct. So if we reserve, which that's what we are doing right now. So if we reserve 38, and they actually wanted up to, I think 40, like they almost wanted 1-to-1, like 45 plus the 15 they had. But at minimum, if we reserve 38 for that parking for the affordable housing, then we actually don't have enough for the Academy plus the next phase of our development, which is the parsonage.
Well,
The
don't you
next
have-
phase, which is the what?
Hold on. Let Councilman Allen fill, which is
Are
the
we talking
parsonage.
about the same parking lot that's on the corner of Princeton and Washington that y'all were going to use?
Correct. That's right. So what the remaining amount is not sufficient for the current phase and the next phase.
When you say the next phase, you're talking about the parsonage, or you're talking about the new
Correct.
facility that you're trying to put across the street?
The parsonage.
So why are you bringing this problem up now? Why don't you wait till the next phase?
Because we feel like right now it is better to sell those condos with adjacent parking. It's actually closer for those residents to access those parking spots.
Oh, the condos are going to be using, you would like them to use these spaces?
Yeah, they're actually closer to where they are, because otherwise they would have to walk across the parsonage development through the outlook.
If you
And
block
then-
them all the way down.
Wait, hold
the
on,
street-
Councilman Allen, let her finish the, go ahead.
Yeah, it is actually more convenient for them. And we are actually allocating some parking in the Bida lot as well for them. So there'll be a mix of, I think Push is going to have some parking in the Bida lot. And then the residents, we felt like they're going to be a better fit along Washington. Currently, a lot of the residents, I guess, at the pad are currently using that, and it's illegal. Like the fire truck actually cannot fit down that street with the current setup. So we'll be improving that street in order to ensure that it's legally safe.
Well, there's a solution to that. You don't allow the pad people to park there.
I think some of them are Indigo, some of them are Pad, some of them are Marta. Again, there was anywhere between 10 and 17 parked there in the last 4 days.
Correct. So when we looked at it, our surveyor said that legally, especially once we create the corner retail, we can at most only fit another, I think, 9 or 10 on that side. There's some telephone poles and there's some electrical poles and things like that. So I think the idea is that we're actually going to make them legal, and it will enable the cars to park safely and allow enough space for a fire truck.
I think that if, the people at the very end of that block that park on Princeton and Washington at the very end, they'll have further to walk than the people that are in the parking lot.
I think currently this is when we looked at it all different ways. I mean, there's no ideal scenario, unfortunately. The Bida lot is going to take a lot longer to construct as well, because that's going to be in conjunction. That parking.
So I'm gonna take these up.
I can't hear with the background noise from
I
Councilman
think
Gay.
Councilman Gay is,
Can you mute him?
I cannot, but someone,
Well, he's-
I'm not there we go. Thank you.
So just to clarify again, the timing of the parking is a big issue as well. So the bigger Bida lot is only going to be constructed together with the larger, economically, it would make sense to do it together with the construction of the 60 units of affordable housing. We are currently already pre-selling and would like to complete the job, the development at the academy. And so that's driving some of the decisions as to where some of these parking should be allocated and what is the best, most efficient way to get there.
So you're getting this because of the affordable housing, and yet you're going to use the parking for the condos?
The affordable housing is driving a lot of the need for additional parking, as well as the timing of the delivery of the parking. And so So there's already not enough parking. So we thought this was the kind of the least impactful way of ensuring that we can deliver the parking in a timely and cost-efficient manner.
Let me ask you this question, because I think in the original proposal, y'all had proposed some retail underneath some of those affordable housing multi-units. Where would those people park?
So there are going to be 14 parking spots located on site. When that development comes up online, there'll be 14 parking spots on site, as in like on that block. And then the rest of it will be on the Bida lot, which is
14 spots on which lot are we talking about? Next to MARTA station or on the other side of the church?
So 14 spaces will be on the MARTA lot, will be on site on the affordable housing development next to MARTA. And then
for pedestrian retail parking, right?
Not just for retail, it's predominantly for the residents, and there will be, I think, don't quote me on this, there will be a few parking spots that will be available on that block. The majority of the parking will be on the Bida lot.
Seems like we need I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'd love to see a parking plan for that area. Who parks where and how many parking places are required? Because it sounds like, it sounds to me like even if you were to get these parking places, which is just going to displace someone that is already parking there. And what do you do for church, for example, on a Sunday morning? You're still going to have a church there. So where are those people going to park?
So part of the reason why we are allocating those parking is so that the church can also have permanent parking spaces in the Bida lot. So we're taking into account everybody's needs, and that's kind of how we came up with the solution. This is anecdotal, but from when we talked to a couple of people who live in the area, they said the pad actually has sufficient parking. The residents actually just prefer to park in front there because it's more convenient for them.
Well, that's too bad. That is too bad.
Right.
And we've just had a parking problem on the west side of the tracks, on the upper part of Main Street in my ward. And we had to yellow the curb and mark it residential parking only. And I think you could mark the curb next to the pad and mark it by permit only. And the pad people don't park there anymore. They park where they're supposed to park.
Correct, which is what we were advocating in this proposal.
Well, then why do you need 13 spaces?
Like it's driven, like I said, mainly because of this need for reserved parking by the majority, by the bigger part of the development. Okay, so again, who's parking in that reserved parking? Is that the people that live in the affordable housing? No, it will be the people who are purchasing the condos, because we are trying to deliver that in the second quarter, but essentially in the next 6 to 8 months. So we're going through all these contortions because before, the people who live in the condos were going to park somewhere else, or first come, first serve in this parking lot. And now you want their spaces reserved. So even if they're out of town, that space is empty, correct? Those spaces are actually going to be shared. So when we draft their condo agreements, we are actually intending for those to only be like an evening parking, so evening and weekends. And so as it stands right now, we would like for those parking, we would like for all of the parking to be shared, actually. That's kind of how we were pushing the entire parking plan until the kind of the affordable housing investors started insisting on only reserved parking. And that's kind of tipped the scale now for more parking. So we're actually quite happy for the condos to share the parking during the day. And we are actually going to write their condo agreements that way. But currently it is the most efficient way to get parking quickly, like in the next 6 to 8 months, without having to build out 60 units of parking when the other development really is only going to be delivered in the next 18 months. And that's going to require a lot of infrastructure work, including an underground detention pond. We estimate about $500,000 worth of money that's going to, at minimum, go into develop that parking lot.
So if we were 3 years in the future, do you need these 13 parking spaces or not?
With driverless cars, I hope not.
No, I'm not that far in the future.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes, Councilman Clay.
Yes, I believe that they would.
I thought, see, you were making it sound, the last few minutes, you were making it sound like it's a timing problem. So if it's a timing problem, then
it's
several years in the future, you could give those parking places back, right?
So it could be possible once we rearrange everything, but currently we would have to write it on the deed, like it would have to come along with the condos unless for some reason we want to revert it. So that's why we're pushing for those to be shared parking. And it's both a scale and a timing problem. It's not just one or the other.
I just don't understand how you can, I think we could be setting a precedent because, if I have an apartment building and I don't have enough room for my people to park, I can move the sidewalk, give it to the city and buy it back and make some reserved spots for my apartment people. I kind of think we're setting a precedent. If it was for the multifamilies, that's why you're getting the money, because you need it for the multifamilies, but yet you're going to use it for the condo owners. And some of them are going to be down the street further than where your parking lot is, but your parking lot's not going to be done until 16 months.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilman Clay.
Like I said before, first off, I don't have a lot of confidence in the plan that's being presented right now. Even if we approve the 13 spaces tonight, I don't feel that this isn't going to come back to bite us in 6 months, a year, 2 years, what have you. Secondly, I would like to see the plan. I would like to see where the different colors, allocations, who's parking where, because it's all in my head right now. I don't have it on paper. And I got a pretty good head, but not that good. So I don't feel comfortable about this decision for a couple different reasons. And I've got a real problem trying to approve this tonight anyhow.
Can you come back with a parking plan and tell us where the residential are going to park, where the condos are going to park, where the housing and retail people are going to park, and how many spots you would have? Can you come back with that?
Yes, definitely. In fact, I think we have, and Nicolette, maybe you can speak to what has been already presented to the city. But I believe that both our architects have been working on exactly what you're talking about and have been in discussion with the city, and this is how we arrived at this solution.
So who in the city thinks this is okay? When you say the city, is that Nikki or is that
So we have ran it.
police
through-
chief?
We have run it through the police, the chief of police, the fire marshal, city planning, Nicolette. And I think Nicolette, you have also spoken to looked at the ordinance. We've run it through this city manager, Mercedes, who is apparently together with the chief of police, supposed to give their approval, which they have emailed their approval for.
Sounds to me like there's a lot more questions.
I agree.
And
Amen.
it doesn't sound like the body, well, at least half the body is going to get those questions, all those questions answered tonight. Is there an opportunity for a more in-depth discussion, perhaps via Zoom, to answer some of these questions within the next couple of weeks, and perhaps we reconsider this at our last meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll take a motion to table.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's unanimous. Item 6K, consideration of an action on approval of a development agreement with Rockland Homes. Ms. Washington?
Yes, so this is for the Hawthorne development that was approved previously with the Folio Group. This is a very similar development agreement. There are a few differences, but this one mainly it's with Rockland Homes, so we need to approve it for this builder.
Any questions for Ms. Washington?
Yes, what happened to Folio?
I do not have the answer to that question.
I mean, we made the agreement with Folio. So have they gone bankrupt? Have they sold the property to someone else? How is it now the responsibility of Rockland Home? Did they subcontract with Ruglock? Is Folio still involved in it?
Okay. Let's see if we can get the answers.
It's my understanding that Folio Group is not involved any longer. The Rockland has taken over this project.
Can anyone, is anyone on who is online able to explain that transition?
Mayor, a couple months ago, the Rockland group came on to explain that they had taken over for the Folio Group. The problem is that we never updated the contract. So that's why the contract is being
I'm sorry, Mercedes. Could
Yes,
you
sir.
say that again?
Yes, the Rockland Group actually came to council a couple of months ago to talk about taking over the project because I guess they bought it out from the Folio Group, but they did come and make a presentation.
Boy, I didn't realize at the time that that they had taken over. So I got answers to my questions in advance. Two of the things that had changed already had been approved by us when it belonged to Folio. So I'm okay with that.
Any other issues?
It's basically the same contract. We were comfortable with Folio. I assume we're comfortable with Rockland. Is staff comfortable?
Yes, when they came in, the council was actually comfortable with because they showed what the homes were going to look like and told us about them taking
Okay.
over the project.
Okay.
Any
I'm
other
good.
questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Taylor, any opposed?
Where's council?
Oh, okay. So Councilman Taylor, are you in favor or are you opposed? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, the connection's a little spotty. But I got it. Councilman Gay, what is your vote?
Okay.
He's muted.
Councilman Gay had stepped away. unless
He's here.
back.
He's
Okay.
muted.
No, he's here. He's muted.
Councilman Gay,
It's- it's-
can you give me a thumbs up if you approve? I'll take that.
Having a problem. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. What was the question?
Are you in favor of approving the agreement with the development agreement with Rockland Homes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. That is unanimous. All right, we'll move on to item 6L. Consideration of an action on a request for approval of a resolution authorizing reallocation of T-SPLOS funds for the replacement and improvement of roadway infrastructure for the 6 West development. Is this
Evening,
Mr.
Mayor.
Myers? Oh, no, Mr. Jones, hello.
Yes, good evening. On this evening, I would like to ask that the city council authorize the mayor to execute the amended prioritized T-SPLOS resolution, which will be utilized to fund infrastructure work on Road Street within the 6 West development.
So moved.
There's a second.
I second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Any comments, questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can someone refresh my memory? The Fulton County School Board, is that this same T-Splash?
No, sir. That's an E-SPLOST.
E-Splash.
Yes,
And
sir.
is that E-Splash for 6 West as well?
No, sir. The E-SPLOST is a function of the school board. The school board puts that on the ballot for improvements to educational facilities. The
Oh.
T-SPLOST is for transportation.
Because one of my constituents sent me an email that they said, did we previously approve money from the Fulton County E-Splash for any of the 6 West development?
No, we did not.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but we wouldn't. That's the
We
school board.
cannot. We cannot.
Yeah, but you never know. I mean, if for some reason they decided to build a school there on property, it might benefit
Certainly.
the
but that would-
residents nearby.
Absolutely. But that wouldn't be a choice for us to use.
That isn't us.
Yep. Not us. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Let me, are there any abstentions?
I'm going to oppose.
Okay. So we have council members Allen and Clay in favor and council members Taylor and Gay against. I vote in favor, so the motion passes. 6M, consideration of an action on a request for approval to allow a Main Street selfie mural project. Mr. Jones.
Yes, this particular item will be taken care of by Renee Coakley, the Main Street Manager. Take it away, Renee.
Mayor and Council, what you see on the screen before you is a mural proposal for the wall that is on the outside of the Real Milk and Honey, which is 3719 Main Street. This was put out as a call for artists, and we got several entries back, and through city staff and the Cpmsa board, this was the proposed mural. The property owner is in great favor of this image, and we're coming before you tonight to request moving forward with having this installed.
Question.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Ms. Coakley, how was this paid for?
This was paid for, so funds from the large mural that we did on Main Street. There were some items that were not used, and so I returned them back to Sherman-Williams, and so we have a credit. So I was going to use those funds, and we have all the poles and the roller covers, all that stuff. We have pretty much all the supplies we need. The only thing I would need to purchase would be whatever paints the artist would need. And we have plenty of primer as well. So it's very minimal supplies that will be needed to purchase to have this.
So you said Chairman Williams is where the original monies come from?
Sherman-Williams, no, that's where the
Sherman
items-
Williams? They
Yes.
paid for our larger mural?
No. It was paid for through the grant that we received from Go Georgia Arts, and then a portion of city funds. So the items that were purchased, like there was pinks left over, we utilized. I'm just trying to utilize items that were purchased. I don't like to waste money.
Sure, but there's no additional cost to the city.
No,
Just
sir.
the paint, just use the paint.
Right, and like I said, that was a credit that we received from items that I returned from leftover, yes.
Any other questions? Hearing none.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 6N, consideration of an action on a request for authorization to issue credits to commercial accounts that have cooling towers. Mr. Richardson?
Mayor, Council, this is our annual credit we give to those commercial accounts, and basically they paid for sewer during the year, and we give them some money back because this water was evaporated and did not go into sewer.
Any questions for Mr. Richardson?
No brainer. I move to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Heard all four of you. That is unanimous. Item 6O, consideration of an action on a request for approval to allow the Power Department to enter into an agreement with Georgia Power for GDOT projects PI number 0013848 and 0013949, the Buffington Road lighting plans. Mr. Richardson, is this you again?
It's me, Jackson.
Oh,
I think
that's
Jackson
right.
did
Okay.
that.
All right.
So
Mr.
what's
Myers.
So what happened, we've got a Georgia Department of Transportation has donated $30 million to build this road and the bridge out there. And so as they came up with a plan, they decided that they're going to put a roundabout in there. Well, part of the roundabout is in City of South Fulton. Majority of the roundabouts in City of South Fulton. And then we've got a small portion that's inside the City of College Park. And they've got a contract with Georgia Power to actually install the light fixtures, which are LED light fixtures. And so since Georgia Department of Transportation doesn't power up stuff, and we don't have any power lines out there to power up the lines because it's a Georgia DOT territory. So I've talked to the Georgia Department of not the Georgia Department, but Georgia Power. So many Georgias, we're in Georgia. Anyway, so we're talking to them that they don't know if they said that if it is, it's going to be very minimal electricity for those. There's about 3 poles out there. They're LED. It wouldn't be much monthly charges, but they may just waiver the monthly charges and move on. And so we've got to have an agreement with Georgia Power, with our power department, so that we can satisfy one of the check marks on the list for Georgia Department of Transportation, so the project can be moved on, and they're anticipating on letting the project within 6 months.
Any questions for Mr. Myers?
I've just got a question. Mr.
Right ahead.
Mr. Richardson, do you have any problems with this?
No, it's very similar. We got them to light up the what I call the Godby Road on the west side of Old National, and we're doing the same thing there. We're paying them monthly for the lights, and this is very similar.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is there a cost to the city? I don't see it. I'm not seeing it.
Yes, there is. I believe there is.
Is there a cost to the city?
At this time, we haven't come up with any cost to the city, and if it would be, like I said, it's probably under $100 a month, so it's very little. But we haven't negotiated that. We may come up with 0.
Okay.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Thank you, Councilman Clay. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it is unanimous. Item 6P is consideration of an action on a request for approval of updates to the city's retaining wall ordinance. Mr. Myers, I believe this is you again. Is that correct?
Yes. We've got various retaining walls that are all over the city. Some are on private property, some is we don't know if they're in the street. We don't have any records of the various retaining walls throughout the city that who approved them. A lot of times they were built on their own, and we don't have any funding mechanism to go throughout the city and reconstruct these retaining walls. So I asked the city attorney to take a look at it, and Winston's on the line, and he also took a look at it too, and his staff. And so we came up with an ordinance to the homeowner would take responsibility, and it was just like a prescribed easement that they just like we do for easements when we do water and sewer lines, power lines, that they even if it is on the city, it's still an easement that we've given an easement.
I don't understand, and this is a question really for Winston, how we can write an ordinance that says the duty to repair any retaining wall within the city, maintain and or repair any retaining wall within the city, regardless of whether that retaining wall is located partially or fully within the city's right of way, shall lie with the private property owner or owners upon whose property the retaining wall is located. Are we saying that on Lyle, I don't have a retaining wall, so I have no dog in the fight. But on Lyle, do I own the land out to the center of the street, but the city has an easement for that land? Is that actually my land, but I'm letting the city use it for cars driving down it? At Winston?
Yeah, I think at all times we're not shifting the burden to maintain public property on private citizens. We're essentially saying that this is at all times private property, and the private property may be in the public right of way.
So you're saying that a wall in front of my house on Rugby, if I had a house on Rugby, which is where we see a lot of walls, if I have a wall that somebody sometime built on city right of way, that wall is my responsibility to maintain, even though it's totally on city right of way, and we don't even know who built it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're saying.
I find that hard to believe legally, and I'm not a lawyer.
So what we're saying also is if, let's just say, in front of my house, I've got a gutter and the gutter has weeds and grass growing up, it's now my responsibility to make sure it's taken care of?
No, that doesn't have,
Well, why wouldn't it be? Same argument. Why? How about the sidewalk in front of my house? Why wouldn't I have to maintain the sidewalk?
Because the sidewalk, we've got a revenue stream for it, but we don't have a revenue stream for all the retaining wall. And we have a revenue stormwater to take care of the storm gutters, and we have a revenue stream for those.
Yeah,
I don't see how now I'm plain old citizen, you city not having a revenue stream for something makes it my responsibility to maintain. I just don't understand that.
Right. Well, Councilman, I mean, we
that's what my taxes, my general fund taxes are your revenue stream, Mr. City.
Mr. Denmark, go right ahead.
Yeah, what I was saying is the duty to maintain shall lie with the private property owner or owners upon whose property the retaining wall is located. And so that's kind of the linchpin. It's not a retaining wall that does not lie on their property. And so the theory being, if they're going to derive the benefit of the retaining wall, then they should maintain the retaining wall. So it's not a retaining wall that's like a sidewalk or a public street or anything else that's wholly city
Okay.
property. So this is, so the linchpin is this retaining.
I understand. It's holding back their dirt.
Yes, and so they're deriving the benefit of this, but then sometimes they want to shift the burden to the city, and so we even have problems with A, can we come on their property, and B, can we maintain this and confer a benefit on this private property owner using public money? So this clarifies that if it's on their property, you know, they get the benefit, they get the duty to.
So if it's on their property, it's clearly their job to maintain it. That seems like a no-brainer to me. But you're saying if it's not on their, and the reason I'm making this clear is because we've got a huge amount of walls that could cost the city a whole bunch of money if we have to maintain them. But so you're saying even if it's not on their property, the wall is holding back dirt that is specific to their property.
That's exactly right.
Now, and that makes sense. But I needed to see a clear, logical reason why you make that inference.
Yes, sir.
I got my answer.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Well, we finally moved on to number 7. 6 was intense tonight. 7A, request to set a public hearing to consider the rezoning of 1905 Godby Road from C1 neighborhood business to RM multifamily residential zoning district. This is just a request to set the hearing. We're not having it. So is there a motion to do so?
I'll move to set a hearing with comment.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it with comment.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Allen.
I just, there's some people, this is on Godby Road and it backs up to Jones Circle, and Jones Circle comes out actually on Southampton. So can we make sure that those people in Jones Circle receive a letter letting them know so they can have the opportunity to come to the public hearing and voice their opinions?
Ms. Washington?
Nikki?
Ms. Miller, can you follow up with Ms. Washington on that?
Ma'am, I found it.
Thank you so much.
I just want to make sure that they're aware so they can voice their opinions, because if we put a sign out on Godby, they would not even see it because they're coming out on Southampton.
Exactly. All right, Councilman Quinn.
I have a comment. Yes. I think that allowing 4 out of the 16 homes to be rented, renter occupied, we're trying to reduce rental properties in the city. And this isn't consistent with what we have done elsewhere. And I think we ought to be down to 2 rental properties. I think 25% is too much. I think more like 15%.
I think that you know, in the planning commission, they recommended 15%, which were 2 homes. That's on page 320.
Yeah, I mean, we're not voting on it tonight.
Nope,
but I
we're
mean,
not voting. We just need.
I'm just giving a heads up.
Yeah.
All right, that's where I'm going to be coming from.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Mayor, Matt.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Sorry, Councilman Allen, I did hear your question. Sorry, my internet, I froze. But we did, all of those homes would be within 1,000 feet. So they should have all received letters.
So you will make sure that they know the date of the public hearing so that they can voice their opinions if they want to do so.
Right, they should have already received those letters with the public hearing date.
They've already got them. Okay.
Can I get a copy of that just to make sure? Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of setting the public hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Item 8A is consideration of an action on a request for approval of a contract renewal with Colliers Management Services. As Councilman Clay pointed out earlier, this is an increase.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are seeking to get the
The
new
attorney's
contract.
information is on the Clayton County
Mr. Jones, you are not
Land
muted.
Bank website.
Mr. Jones, you're not muted. There we go.
Okay, well, we are seeking approval for a contract renewal with Colliers International. Their fees are going from $114,000 to $119,700. So they're going up about $5,700. Again, I did put on the background that Collier was one of our companies that had the PPE, and they have returned to the city thus far $40,000, and we're expecting another refund in a couple of weeks of $37,000.
So
Any
how much
questions?
is this going to increase the cost?
$5,700.
Okay, so you're saying they're offsetting
Now,
returns.
Yeah, well, they're gonna give us about 70,000. Well, by the time it finishes, it ends up being about $77,000. But their fee is going up $5,700.
I move to approve.
Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Clay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any
Thank you.
abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Item 8B is consideration of an action on bids received for Road Street widening and improvements from Camp Creek Parkway to Red Wine Avenue.
Yes, Mayor and Council. An RFP was released on August 10th for the construction of Road Street from Camp Creek Parkway to Red Wine. The bids were collected on August 26th. We received 3 bids back. Staff is recommending C.W. Matthews for the contracting to complete the construction work of Road Street within the 6 West development at $9,734,945.02. I have with me this evening Jesse Frazier, the program manager for the 6 West project, as well as Mike Lobdell, who is responsible. He's with Kimley Horn. He's responsible for the engineering, and they have also wrote a letter of support recommending C.W. Matthews for the construction of Road Street. We're here to address any questions that you might have.
C.W. Matthews was slightly higher than the lowest bidder, and I understand that there were some parts of the bid for let me get the site, the first CMES, that were non-responsive, but even with all of those in, they still came in slightly lower. Was it because they would use C.W. Matthews as a sub, and C.W. Matthews has done work with the city before, that C.W. Matthews was ultimately the one recommended?
Yeah, it was a combination of the two. C.W. Matthews has done work with the city in the past, and they have a pretty good reputation with us. And they were also involved in both bids. We feel more comfortable with C.W. Matthews because of that. And, you know, we got some really good bids. The bids were very tight, considering we had 3 bids and they all came within $150,000 of each other, all 3. But I'll let Jesse Frazier and Mike Lobdell also chime in to address your question.
Everything you said, Mr. Jones, is exactly correct. They're our recommendation based on their history with the city and based on their more responsive bid.
I have 2 comments.
Go ahead, Councilman Gay.
Councilman Allen, would you like to go first?
No, go
Is he
ahead.
speaking? So I have 2 comments, and this is to the record. First off, and I got, part of my question answered earlier, but there are streets in Ward 4, and I can't speak for other wards, that have not been paved in sometimes 10, 20, 30 years. I think it's unfair to the voters to spend our tax money on a development that is not generating revenue and tell voters that we can't afford to pave their streets. The second comment I want to make is, I don't think it's fair that we continue to select prime contractors and don't have any goals or any method whatsoever to support minority-owned businesses. I want to say publicly that the two gentlemen that continue this process are doing a disservice to the citizens of College Park.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Allen?
Was C.W. Matthews, were they the only ones that when they went out to investigate, took their drilling equipment, I understand, and
That is correct. They
okay.
did their site due diligence, did the borings, and were much more prepared. Correct.
Do you know how many borings they did, or?
I don't know. I know it was at least 5, but I don't know the exact number.
Okay. And the other 2 did not do any borings at all?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So you're saying that they've already put money into this project to generate an accurate estimate?
That is correct, Councilman Clay.
I'm going to move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oppose?
Any abstentions? Councilman Taylor, what is your vote?
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, what is your vote?
Oh, I vote for it.
Oh, okay. All right. So council members Allen, Clay, and Taylor in favor. Councilman Gay is against. The motion passes. Item 8C is consideration of an action on a request for approval of a contract extension with BDR for program management advisory services for phase 1 of the 6 West development for a 12-month duration. Mr.
I move
Jones?
to approve.
Okay. All right. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Any questions? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oppose?
Okay. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Councilman members Allen, Clay, and Taylor are in favor. Councilmember Gay is opposed. The motion passes. Item 8D is consideration of an action on a request for approval of a contract with BDR Partners for program management services for the road street improvements.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Oppose?
Council members Allen, Clay, and Taylor are in favor. Councilmember Gay is opposed. The motion passes. Item 8E, consideration of an action on a request to purchase a replacement vehicle for Unit 97 in the engineering department. Any questions for Mr. Myers? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
I'll second its budget.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor, you just muted yourself. Can you give me?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That
Aye.
is unanimous. Appreciate it. We are on to 9. We have no unfinished business. We move on to new business, which there is none of that
What
either.
about 8F?
Thank you. Oh, thank you. It's consideration of an action on consideration of an action to authorize the interim city manager to make a payment to the Georgia EPD for $15,448.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention?
Okay, thank you, Councilman Gay. So council members Allen, Clay, and Taylor are in favor. Councilmember Gay abstains. The motion passes. All right, so city managers, or I'm sorry, 10 was 10 city managers report? No, okay. New business. We didn't have any. City attorney's report. Mr. Denmark.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. 12 city managers report. Ms. Miller?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're moving on to report of mayor and council. Councilmember Gay, we'll start with you.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, one of the things I did for approximately 12 years was cost containment. For those who don't know, I used to provide a service to governments, county and municipal governments, to help them find where monies were being spent. One of the things that's classic with this council is that you want to argue that you can't afford to give old seniors a break, but you want to pass a almost $10 million contract to a company that gets most of all of our contracts. You know, I think this is past being discretionary. I think this is overt, and it's assault to my intellect. It's an insult. It's almost like what we call the bourgeoisie versus the proletarians. It's an insult. And I pray and I hope the voters can somehow understand why it is so important to vote for people who can balance their needs with the status quo. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Allen.
Just a couple of things. I've noticed around in Ward 3, the people that came out and did the gas checks for the cities, there's some holes in the middle of the street where they ran some checks for the gas, and those holes seem to be shrinking and causing potholes. So they need to get in touch with them to come back and fix the potholes and sidewalks where they have messed up the sidewalks. So the people that came by and did the gas checks. Second of all, I'd like to say a little shout out for the Atlanta Choral Guild that performed in College Park. And if you missed it this past Sunday, they were absolutely fabulous at St. John's Church. We had a couple of the people, Anita and Gerald Cadis, that performed, and it was just a delightful hour. So I want to thank them and the Choral Guild for bringing that to College Park and coming back in the spring. And I hope everybody shows up because they were fabulous. Second of all, I've heard about 10 people ask me if I plan to run. And I'm just going to say right now, I do plan to run at the next election.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Councilman Taylor.
I don't have anything.
All right. Thank you, sir. Councilman Clay.
Well, I have just a couple of things. For one thing, I'll add on. I'll second what Councilman Allen said about the Choral Guild. I think it was well worth going to, and I really appreciate that group coming. They had a relatively small attendance, but a very appreciative one. Another point negative point I'd like to bring up. Almost every packet that I get for council meeting has a document, usually several in it, that have been scanned in. They may be an old contract, they may be a bunch of other things. They are scanned in, and they are not what we call OCR'd. In other words, I can't just run my marker across there and it recognizes the words. And if I want to copy something out of there, I can actually copy words that I can paste into an email or a text message. It's not an image, it's actual words. And what I don't understand is why we cannot do the OCR process on those things that are not coming out of Word. They're fine. I don't know about the rest of the council, but I spend a whole heck of a lot of time reviewing the documentation. I probably spent 8 to 10 hours reviewing the stuff for this council meeting. And I think it's reasonable for me to expect my efforts to be facilitated. And I understand you can make mistakes, but it's real easy to test whether a document is OCR'd or not. All you have to do is take the PDF and lay your finger on it or lay a cursor on it and see if it is scanning over the word or it's just capturing the whole thing as an image. And if somebody doesn't know how to do that, I'm sure Mr. Hicks can advise him. And if for some reason he can't do it, I'd be happy to give a training course to staff on how to do this. And I have been biting my tongue every council meeting. Occasionally I'll make a remark to staff. This wasn't OCR'd. And I'm sorry to bring it up on a negative point because I think the staff does a terrific job. But it is really driving me crazy that we can't get this one thing done. And when the final document is put together, all you have to do is test it. So please, don't make me rant and rave again. I don't like ranting and raving. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. So I've got another one-on-one coming up on November 29th. Feel free to sign up. You can call 404-669-3755. We've still got some slots left. If you'd like to come and talk to me about any particular matters, you are more than welcome. My door is open from 9 to 5 on Monday, the 29th. We actually have another great event that evening, which is not the senior summit. See, I asked Ms. Moore to have those two things ready. And then I realized that there's also a great event on the 29th. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot. Is Ms. Coakley here? Yes, she is. Ms. Coakley, do you want to take the opportunity to talk about what's happening the evening of the 29th?
Events that are happening. So we have the light up for the city of College Park. And then we also have the first ever Cpmsa holiday tree trail, where various businesses in the city and local residents and organizations have purchased trees, and they will all be decorated creatively on the grounds of City Hall and the auditorium. And those will be lit up as well on the 29th. And then finally, we have another portion called Warm Up and Wine. Cpmsa is selling commemorative coffee mugs. And we will have a spice cider for the adults, and the rec center will be having hot chocolate for the younger generation. And then also we will have wine for people that come up with their commemorative, any wine stroll glass from years past. They will be afforded a pour of wine as well. So we just want everyone to come out and have a great time and enjoy the festivities on the 29th. And then all the trees will remain on the grounds until January 3rd.
Fantastic. And I believe that we have a holiday parade coming up the first weekend in December. And again, I don't mean to put people on the spot. Ms. Johnson, you still around?
I am. Let me get yes. So December 4th is the Christmas parade. So lineup will be at 9 o'clock and we're looking forward to it. So if anybody's interested in coming out, please register for joining on the Christmas parade.
Fantastic. And there's going to be a separate ride around with the fire department as well, a little bit later in December as well.
December 18th will be, Santa will ride around and visit some areas in College Park. That route should probably be put out for everybody to see, but Santa will make some special appearances on the fire truck.
Fantastic. Thank you for, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
it's okay.
Let's take the opportunity and let people know what's going on. And the second slide, thank you, Ms. Moore, is in conjunction with our senior summit that we've been working with Fulton County on. It is going to be a great event with lots of fantastic information for some of our most valued residents. We are going to have the Fulton County DA's office to talk about some of the things that you should look out for in terms of folks who may not have your best interests at heart, with scams and sort of online scams that you may want to avoid. Commissioner Abdul Rahman will be there as well to discuss some of the great things going on in Fulton County. We've got the Fulton County Library System coming in to talk about some of the senior services. We've got an attorney who's going to come in and talk about estate planning. We're going to learn about Meals on Wheels. We've got a judge from Superior Court, Judge Kevin Farmer, who's going to talk about grandparents' rights. So it's going to be a great afternoon on December 8th, and we urge you to spread the word. Also call 404-669-3755 or email Lisa Swan, lswan@collegeparkga.com to reserve your spot because spaces are limited. We will have refreshments as well, and we will have a few drawings for some fun prizes. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a really informative and fantastic afternoon at Camp Truett. So I hope to see you there. That's all that I have. I think that we've got some, shoot. We did not cover those minutes. We didn't cover the minutes.
Gotta go back.
Yep, we got to go back into executive session. Is there a motion to go back into executive session for the discussion of, I mean, it really is to confirm the minutes from executive session. Mr. Denmark,
So move reluctantly.
is that an appropriate motion?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that is unanimous. Gentlemen, you gotta go to the link that I sent you for executive session. We will be back shortly, probably within the next 5 minutes.